So Served was a performance that we did a year ago. In a moment, you'll see the finale of it. And it was a performance that was the culmination of a 3-year relationship with Austin-based artists from Forklift Dance Works. And the idea for Served and the overall project was first to create a performance to celebrate and show the beauty of the work of dining services, but then also to explore the idea of community. How do we build community through performance? How do we build it through team building? And so today's discussion is 2 parts. It's first to show what we did and to celebrate what we did. And as I watched the video of this to prepare for today, I still can't believe I say, we really did that? We all came together? Because there were so many of us that needed to come together to do this. And it's important to celebrate that effort. And then I'd like to take some time with the panel to talk about how we can continue the momentum of Served. How can we continue to build this community? So we are going to, well, actually, let me introduce myself first. My name is Randy, and I work over at the 62 Center, and I was one of the many people that helped put this together. I was fortunate enough to be on this team. And also as a reference point, I was talking to Allison Orr, who is the choreographer who you will see in a moment. She reminded me that she spent over 100 days on campus to put this show together over 3 years. So that's quite a commitment on both on behalf of the college, dining services, and Forklift Dance Works to make that sort of thing happen. And last, before we get right into this, and thank you, before I get into the video, Allison is taking this idea. So Served was a groundbreaking project, actually. No one had really quite done this sort of thing before. And as reference, we got a National Endowment for the Arts grant, $25,000, to take this work and put this work, we're touring this idea of Served. How do we show the beauty of everyday work on a university, college campus, and how do we do that? And then to tour it like a dance company. So we had money to do that, and Allison Orr and her team are now at Wake Forest University. And their show goes up in October, but they're going to say hello to us from Wake Forest, Allison and Chrissy and Gretchen and others. So let's go to the videotape. So we're going to see the finale, about the last 8 minutes of the performance, and then we're going to segue into something from Chrissy and Allison and Gretchen.
Now, dining services is a very special department.
It's a great place to work.
Bakers start at midnight.
It's so precise. There's little room for error.
And then you have staff starting as early as 4:30 a.m. They see us, but they don't see us, you know.
College runs on its stomach. You know, these people have to take care of the kids.
6:30 a.m.
Sometimes you'll even need a little bit of dextrose instead of so much sugar, so it holds the structure of the gelato.
Like 9 a.m.
I have to bring in a lot of food. So I have to be sure that my staff has everything that they need.
11:45.
They always come and find me if they need something or just someone to talk to.
The thing that I love most about my job it is serving the kids, helping the students.
We're kind of like their parents for the 4 years.
And then there's 5:30 p.m.
We all work for the same, goal of getting these kids to graduate and getting them out of here.
And then when we send them off, they should be ready. Should be ready. The kitchen's working at least 24 hours. And we're serving about almost like 19 hours a day. Serving.
from facilities at Wake Forest University in Winston-Salem, North Carolina. There it is. We know a year ago we were with you, but we miss you. And here we are making another dance. How's it going, Chrissy?
It's going great. We've been cleaning toilets. We've been like blowing grass. We've been, Gretchen, you were
pulling trash.
All kinds of mopping. You'll see some mopping. So what are we doing now?
We're making a show here, and we're thinking of you all as we do it.
We miss you. Happy anniversary. Woo! Served.
I'm here with Rob. Rob, what do you do here?
I'm an electrician here. I'm actually a facilities technician here.
And what'd you teach me how to do today?
You have been to Ice Machine 101, as you can see in front of us. This is not the kitchen. As you can see, Williams College, she's actually doing some real work. So when you see our video, you'll know she's been away.
Okay, so how long does it take you to normally do this? Oh, no.
4 hours of machine. I got you. Here, let me do it.
I'm like leaving hairs of the brush in there.
That's good.
Freaking annoying.
That's good.
That's what you want. Means you're pushing hard enough.
Really?
I'm Teresa, and I am a custodian here at Wake Forest. Hi, Williams College. A big shout out to T, Paul, and Robert, the mopping crew over there at Williams College. I love y'all's dance moves. Way to go!
Awesome.
I'm Judy. I'm at Wake Forest University, and I'm in custodial services. I'm showing you how to mop behind a tight space in the students' rooms. So
We're in a student dorm room, and Judy is mopping, and look at this. She does a little Fred Astaire move here, getting around.
So you have to get around and on the side of it. You have to mop yourself out, you know. So you go like this, and here we go.
Do that again. Do that last part again.
This right here?
Yeah.
So you're doing this. Come on back. Like you said, come on down, well, come on back.
Teresa and Rob are part of the team. We're working on building this show here, and anything, they loved seeing your show. Great work.
Great work.
And awesome job. What are you all hoping happens here?
We're going to peel back the onion here as well. We're going to get into some layers that people walking the salons here probably don't get to see every day. We're going to show what we really do here and keep their life sweet.
Awesome. Awesome. We hope to do as good of a job as y'all did. Thanks, y'all. We love you. Bye. Love you.
Gretchen, as we were doing our last little interview here, we happened to look up. Look what we see. This is what we're trying to remedy at Wake Forest. We're going to show you what these faceless men really do, and women. We're getting ready to put a face to it. See you next time.
So I think they threw down on us. I think we're going to have to show them how it's done. And I hope some of you are able to come down to Wake Forest with me in October to see that show. So now I'd like to invite a few people to come up that participated in the putting together Served, but keep in mind that this is only the tip of the iceberg. Even what you saw on stage was the tip of the iceberg. How many performed? Was it 50? 50? How many dining service members performed? Was it 52, I think it was? Something along those lines. But then there was everybody who worked backstage in the dining halls to keep everything running while some of us could get out on stage and have this awesome show. And then there was folks that helped make it happen. We had 4 student performers, 4 professional performers, video folks, students. We had a lot of people on this team. So hopefully we can bring some of those voices here. So I'd like to invite our panelists to come up and introduce themselves and have a little conversation, and then hopefully we can get to some of your questions as well. So come on up, please. Stay away from that speaker. So please make sure to talk into the microphone so that we can make sure we get it all recorded. Nancy, you're up first. Okay. This is going to be interesting. So I'd like you to each to first introduce yourselves, tell us what you did on Served, and maybe just a couple of words on how you got involved in this project. Nancy, we'll start with you.
Hi, I'm Nancy Bryant. I work here in Pereski. I work for Grab and Go. And I was part of Taz team, thank you. we each were broken down into teams.
Hi everyone, I'm T. Martin. I work at Pereski as well. I work with for Whitman's, and I was part of the mop team with Robert and Paul.
Hi, I'm Lisa Armstrong. I work at Driscoll, and I was part of Taz's team with Nancy and the other crew that I was with, and I had so much fun doing this.
All right. Hi, my name is Leticia Guzman, and I work at Whitman. But if it's too hard for you to say my name, you can just call me Tissue. And I had my own team. I was my own team. My part was when we come at 6 in the morning, the first things that we do, put our uniform and all the things to get ready to work.
Hello, my name is Jimmy Guyden. I'm the catering chef over at the faculty house. I was on the team that made some omelets. And well done. Yeah. Well, the eggs were well done?
No.
Or the job was well done?
Howdy, everyone. I'm Jason Lucas, Williams College, class of 2002. I was one of the performers, one of the musicians who were performed so that the amazing dining staff could perform for you. And yeah, it was an awesome experience. So.
Hello. My name's Abel. I'm a senior, class of 2019, we hope. And I was a stage manager at the bake shop, like tour station downstairs as part of the performance.
Hi, my name's Molly O'Brien, and I was in a couple different acts, the finale, but I also judged the omelets.
I'm Jay Corey. I'm the college's video person, and I had the pleasure of pointing my camera at every second of this.
Thank you. So, Leticia, can we start off with you? Can you tell us about sort of that last moment that we saw during the bows? How did that make you feel? How did the process culminating with that?
At that moment, I had a goosebumps. I feel so good that I feel that I was a celebrity. Everybody yelling for us, and I was not expecting that. Was a nice moment.
Well, we all worked so hard to get to that point, so by the time we had all put in so many hours of practicing, when we did the grand finale and everybody was cheering us on, it kind of gives you like an exhilarating feeling that you've completed something, and people actually get to see what dining services is all about and how hard we work every day.
What I'm feeling right now is chills from just watching that.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's having everybody stare down at you, and the last moment of that Saturday night, it was awesome.
Abel, I'll put you on the spot now, because while you weren't standing there for the bows, you were so much a part of making this happen. How did you feel during the bows?
Well, I really enjoyed stage managing. That was really great. Putting a lot of time and effort into it, it was like really rewarding. Like, even though I wasn't part of that element of the performance, it was just really fun. Also I've worked, in dining services for my entire time here. So it was just really amazing to see this artistic performance rendered out of what people do on a day-to-day basis that's often taken for granted and forgotten. And like something that's really not glamorized. And I thought that the dance and the performance and making it visually interesting and like an artistic expression didn't necessarily glamorize it, but it made it into something that, could convey I mean, all of those things, just excitement and playfulness and enjoyment out of something that, yeah, we traditionally think of as not.
Jason?
The feeling of being a part of something that you know is larger than you is always more gratifying than just you going out and doing it on your own. What I do now, I run a movie theater in New York City, and so I'm always on the backside of anticipating people's needs and having to meet them prior to them saying that they need them. And that's very much what dining services does, even more so now than when I was a student, because dining services wasn't active 19 hours a day when I was a student here. And there were not as many opportunities and options and all of that sort of thing. So when you as the individual who are always behind the scenes, ensuring that other people can enjoy and just go about their day and do what they do and not even think about it, that when you do your job well, people don't even know that you're really a part of it. To be a part of the group that allows that to be exalted and celebrated for what it is, because it's so vital to what everyone does. And the students don't even take in, I know that I didn't until after I graduated, the understanding that so much of what you take away from here when you leave is based on how you go about your day, how you set your day up, and if when you get up and when you're a student and you are thinking about class, when you get out of the room and you get to the dining hall, you're expecting that someone has taken your needs into consideration and they're being met. And so that work for years and years and years, when you finally get an opportunity to say, this is the mundane, everyday thing that we take for granted, but we celebrate it because it is such a vital part of all that we do. I hope that as an alum and as a student, that taking part in it gave me a deeper understanding of the interconnectivity of all that goes on here. Not only in my 4 years, because when I come back, I'm looking for knock you nakeds. I'm looking for the honey buns. And it's that little thing that lets you know that dining services, it's not just food. It's the people, it's the work, it's the families, it's the friendships, it's all that goes into making a team be able to work together, and then to exalt it, to say, this is key, this is vital. And it's beautiful when you look at it the way that it's done. So it was a great opportunity.
Well, I'll tap into that expectations, and T, I'm going to start with you, but I hope you all get a chance to start with this. But what were your expectations when Allison and Chrissy came up to you and talked to you about this, or when you first heard about it? What were your expectations, and were they met? Were you happy with the final product?
At first, my expectations were, this is not going to happen. I don't know why I thought that, because those two are the most enthusiastic people I've ever met. They're go-getters. And I don't know, that's my first thought most of the time, is negativity. And fortunately, this dance, this serve, changed that for me. My expectations were zero, and then when things started rocking and rolling, my expectations were that this is going to be pretty successful and something special. Unfortunately, we spent a lot of time, I spent a lot of, we all do. This is, we spend more time here than we do with our own families. And sometimes that's hard, and sometimes what the panel was speaking about earlier was, I'm really behind the scenes. I don't cook, I don't prepare food. I try to help out, but I'm a custodian, basically. My title is utility worker, and I clean up after you all. And I don't get to see as many people. And this production brought us all together as a true family. At first, I always thought I was an individual in this whole process, and that's what it brought to me. It brought family. It brought the number one thing in the world is connection. You have to be connected, and that's what this did for me. So,
Lisa, you're shaking your head.
When I came into this, when I was asked to do it, I figured I'm just as crazy as those two women. I'll give it a shot, and if it doesn't work out, I'm just going to walk out. But once we started doing all this and got together, and we all started working together, and everything connected, and the students would walk by us and watch us doing this every evening, it was really exciting. And to have it all come together to let everybody know what Williams College is all about and what dining services is all about, hang on. It made my day. It was like the finale was the best thing that could have ever happened to us. And I'll let Letitia take the microphone. You got it?
When they asked me if I want to participate, I didn't hesitate. I said yes from the first moment, and I didn't know what was going to be, what I was going to do. But at the end, I was so glad that I did it, and those two, they put it together. I think it was a great show.
Wasn't it good?
Yes.
For me, I think it's when I first heard about it, I tried to hide, stay out of the way, hoping not to get stuck into a meeting, because the words you hear, it's we're going to create a dance. At home, I'm a great dancer, but in public, I know that I don't know how to dance at all. So that made me real nervous. It made me scared. But once we found out that what we were going to do is do what we do every day, then it became more interesting, and you wanted more information about it. I think the more time we spent with Allison and Chrissy, like T said, the positive energy they brought, the enthusiasm, it just, no matter where you were, when they came into the room, everybody there was just uplifted. And it just made you want to do your job for them almost. You wanted to make them happy. And then I think as we all spent more time together, and I think people have said this again, is it's our coworkers. We all don't work together every single day. We all work in our own units. We travel back and forth from time to time, but this whole process, it was like amazed me to see how many people were just stopped, and you could have heard a pin drop to watch 3 or 4 guys mop a floor. And I think some of the cool things for me were the few weeks after the event. We had a meeting in the auditorium, and we popped in the video, and just to see Jerry DeKeel making the cake, you could have heard a pin drop in the auditorium as well. And then when somebody would come out on the stage, the auditorium, we were clapping and we were hooting and hollering, and it's those moments right there that I think for the team that's usually behind the scenes, is just it's an incredible feeling. And it was probably by far one of the best team building experiences I think that I've gone through ever.
Oh, Lisa.
I like to say something. One of the best things that could have happened out of this, at the end, the final finale, our families got to come and see us perform, wondering why we're leaving our houses at night in the cold weather, and then they finally got to see why the hell Mom was leaving in the middle of the night.
I did want to point out one thing that I think I recognized as someone who's behind the scenes oftentimes. There are times when my staff does an amazing job at what they do every day. And I believe from watching it, there are moments when we do what we do really well, and we look to each other and we know that we're a good squad, that we can take what's thrown at us. I get the sense that there were individuals who were involved in the SERVE project who wanted to take part, but there are also other dining halls around the campus, and there are other places where individuals who are your teammates, who are your fellow dining service members, who are then pulling slack so that you guys could participate in this, so that then they could come see you and support you when your families come. And it's just it's a moment where the entire squad knows what it's capable of. And because you don't see someone who, say, works at Driscoll or at Whitman's or wherever, you don't work with them every day, but then you get an opportunity to do something together with them, it lets you know how strong and how versatile and how much your teammates have your back, but it also lets you know just that, the one little thing of goodness can be a catalyst for so many other people to feel that the work that they do matters and that it affects people's lives in a positive way, because I definitely have a very thankless job providing safety and security and entertainment for other people. And the majority of my time is like, yeah, okay, whatever, as long as you're done. But there are always those few moments where someone thanks you for what you do or makes a connection with you for what you do, the small little thing. And when I was here, when I was a student, there are individuals here who were in dining services when I was here, and it's that level of cyclical love and appreciation, and you know that part of the reason why I come back is because I enjoy the environment here and the people, and when you see a familiar face, that for me was doing the exact same amazing, mundane, and behind-the-scenes great job, when you see them and you see the work that they're doing later on being exalted, you're like, it's a human connection of connectivity that says that, it doesn't always have to be the thing in the front. It doesn't always have to be the individual who's, flipping eggs. It can be the person who's calling the show, but that everybody is on a team. They're all pulling in the same direction for the right reasons. And that was, for me, it was like when the opportunity to be a part of Serve came, it was like, service is such a beautiful thing, and that so many of the kids just are in their lives and not thinking about the myriad of people who are working in so many different ways to make their lives easy and simple and smooth. And for them to turn around and see that work and say, I see you every day, and I just say what's up because I'm running off to class, but that they took time out to come here and to see the art project in the space where they all gather. This building didn't exist when I was a student here. Claiming Williams didn't exist as a thing when I was a student. And the building that was here was that family feeling of a place. And when it was gone, a part of me felt like it had left with the campus too. And I have friends who come here once every 5 years, every 10 years, and when they return and they see a building that no longer was on campus when they were there, they feel like a part of their college experience has died. But when you see a familiar face from dining services or someplace else, it reminds you of all the things that you did, the times that you spent, and it's not about the buildings, it's not about anything but the people who you were here with. And that was the overarching thing that really made it heartwarming for me, because it was cold.
We're still doing expectations, right?
Yes. Yes, please.
I actually didn't have a lot of expectations. I think I heard a little bit about the show, and then one day I was at work, and I don't think Allison knew this, but I was walking back into Whitman's, run into Allison. She's like, she gives me the pitch. She's like, Abel, we really need more students, and we need student participation to make this thing work, and I just really, I'm like, oh my God, okay. So yes, I'll agree to do it because it's winter study, and what else do you do during winter study? I didn't really know anything to expect. One thing I did not expect was, partly because food itself is visually interesting, or at least we hope, right? We try to not, even everyone here in dining services, they try not to just put a gray thing on, so we try to make it that the medium people we're working with and all the steps that I did not expect those to actually contribute to something that could be turned into a performance, and in very little time, because everyone who was working on the show was still working, and they were working around the constraints of having to shut down the whole building because it's not just, you know, one holler. No, it's and everyone comes off their shift, and then everyone has to get in place, and you have to move all the equipment, everything like that. And so just the ability to create a show in under such limited time constraints, that I did not expect, and I was blown away by. Something else, though, was interesting in that I'm thinking more of it now, you know, it's like it's not common, but it's like something that you'd expect a student to do, which is like do a performance or some sort of musical or something, you know. But I just found it interesting, you know, like we're in an institution where like staff don't get those same opportunities to like learn and engage in the same way as students do, and like that little opportunity I thought was great. And it's something I didn't expect to appreciate as much as I did, but I think after witnessing the final product and the process, I appreciated it more. So.
Molly?
I just want to talk about Chrissy and Allison, because, boy, they tortured me. In a good way. Basically, I thought that they needed help, so I basically told them that I would help them. Whether it's getting staff together or equipment together. One time I got an email at 1:30 in the morning. They needed a table to put a cake in, and it had to be like 4 feet by 5 feet. The only table I knew about was down at Mission Park. So we grabbed the truck and went down to Mission Park and took their table for a week. Those were the kinds of things that Chrissy and Allison asked from me, but in the same respect, they were coming over to Driscoll and they were mopping at 9 o'clock at night. They were vacuuming. I would see it on Facebook. I'd be home and see it on Facebook. Chrissy and Allison mopping. I think that they just had so much charisma and so much positive influence on everybody that by the time the show's finished, everybody was on such an adrenaline high, and that's what they brought to us. And that's what we have to keep going. I know it's hard, but if you reflect upon that after seeing the video, boy, what a positive change that it gets such a team effort, morale. It's a good thing. So, how about you, Jay?
I was brought into it fairly late. I mean, the planning was already underway with the charge. Can you catalog, can you capture this? The importance of that being that after the fact, that's what's going to be remaining, and that, you know, the good pressure that was on it is dining services, a group of people who every day give their best, that to thank them, I was obligated to give my best. I mean, and that's good pressure, you know, the musician, everybody. As far as did I think it was going to work, because I was kind of following Chrissy and Allison around and everybody as they were in the first stages, and I could see it building, but it like, okay, yeah, potentially this is going to be okay, but it did seem disjointed. The first dress rehearsal, and as disorganized as it was, and as the many stops and starts that happened in that, at the end of it, I went, this is going to work. You could tell it was going to work. Everybody was rallying. Everybody was, you know, finding their marks, but the marks were set, and all the movements and the music and everything was coming together, and that was the moment. The expectation from the moment dress rehearsal started was, this is going to be fantastic.
Nancy, I'll let you finish up this question, but then can you also talk about, you know, besides your expectations around this show, how you felt about yourself from working on this project? How did you feel about your colleagues? If you can sort of speak to the larger point of that also.
When we first started with, this is working. Ooh, okay, now it's working. So when we first heard, the word dance, a lot of us were like, has anybody actually ever seen me dance? This is not happening. They better have a lot of alcohol at this thing, because the only way I'm dancing is to be drinking. So, you know, a bunch of us, we were like, these people are crazy. I don't know how this is gonna work. I don't see how this is going to even piece together. You know, so we kind of sat back, and at first a lot of us were like, no way, we're not doing this. And then we kind of watched, and as they explained it and stuff, you know, like how it was going to work, a bunch of us were like, what do we have to lose? We might as well do this and try to have some fun doing it. So that's what we did. And I guess, you know, as the thing went on, there were some times where we got very punchy because we got tired, because some of us worked, you know, over 30 hours of overtime. And so at one particular moment, I can remember for myself, we were down in the kitchen and we were doing like it wasn't before the show, the actual show, but they were bringing people in. And I got nervous and I was making wraps, and one of the wraps ripped. And I was like, oh my God, I hope they don't take this out of my paycheck. Well, the whole place started rolling. So then I was like, okay, that kind of broke the ice a little bit. So from that point on, I mean, it was fun. We had a lot of fun doing it. It brought a lot of us closer. You know, we're together, like he said, with each other more than we are our own families. So sometimes we become like our families, and we're like, shut up. You know, we've had enough of each other. Oh, thank you. And we have those moments too. So it was a very good experience for me. I'm glad that I was part of it. And I do think a lot of us are closer because of it. So, you know, if there was ever opportunity to do something else, I would probably participate again.
Thank you. So let's broaden our focus a little bit. We've been talking about how it's been working internally to dining services. I'd like some of you to reflect on how you think the Williams community now thinks of dining services and how they responded to some of the ideas and the show and then the connection. Jimmy, do you have any thoughts?
I think the key word that I think came out of everything for me was and I think we've said it here a bunch of times already, is the relationships and building relationships. And I mean that by, you know, there's people that we know, but it seems like after this process that went through, people came much more closer. And I think as far as like from the outside perspective, my feeling is that you know, we were no longer just the people that put the food out. It's like you know, for weeks afterwards, people were saying, "Oh my God, I saw the show," and you know, and it's those stories of, I can't believe it takes, you know, what it takes to put out a buffet, or I can't believe you did that. You know, I think there's a lot of people out there that when they walk into a room at a party and everything is set, that they just assume that that's how it is. And but it takes a group of people to put that together. I'll probably steal one of your stories here, Molly, but I think one of the greatest, coolest things that was afterwards. There was a student, and I believe he eats at Driscoll, and he told us that you know, day after day after day he goes to Driscoll and he walks down the stairs and he gets his tray and he gets his plate and he gets his food and his head is down, and that after that weekend, when he came down the stairs, he had a different attitude towards it, and it wasn't about the food that was in the buffet line. It was about saying hi to Bridget or saying hi to Frenchie. And talking to them and having an actual conversation with the people behind the line. And I think just that one little mark there sums up a lot of it, where, you know, I think before the show, you know, Wake Forest has got a great saying, you know, the faceless people. And I think that brought it out. I think there's, you know, it's the connections.
Leticia, you had one of the more intimate moments because we were all in your locker room watching you prepare and hearing your stories. How were the responses? How do you feel a different connection? How do you think it impacted people?
I think the like he said, people, the food is there, but they realize that since we walk into the door, we start getting like change and preparing for put our uniforms and go to work, and they got to see behind what we do behind the scenes, and now they have an idea what goes in every meal they see in the table and the server. But I just want to add one thing that about the show. My favorite part, beside mine, was the. I think it was for everybody to the mapping. It was the best. To me, it was the best part of the show. I enjoyed that part.
Why do you think so?
Huh?
Why do you think?
Because the music and the way, like tea dance. Yes, it was a good part.
But everybody responded so well to that point, and I wonder, so what does it say about all of us that was one of the moments? I mean, it was all beautiful, but everybody responded so strongly to, as Allison and Chrissy call, work as my muse. They say work is my motivation and my inspiration. And I mean, I don't want to put any words, but for me, it felt like that's what it was. You were just it was an inspiration, and you were putting yourself into that work. Maybe I'm overthinking it, but why do you think people responded so strongly to that?
Well, because it's different. People don't see somebody with a mop and trying to put it to dance. I mean, we're always behind the scenes, no one really, I shouldn't say this, but no one really cares about the custodian or the person behind the scenes. And that kind of brought the attention to, yeah, there is really somebody behind the scenes that's actually doing this work. It was very beautiful, beautifully done. I was shocked in how beautifully it was done. And that's because of Allison and Chrissy and the whole crew. And the music. The music was phenomenal. That's still stuck in my head, especially now after watching the movie. But I can't stop dancing to that.
So you see
I'll just tell a little story. I was in Lee for some event, like a fair or whatever. It was like an art show. And I was talking to this young woman that was from Lee, and she said, "You're the mopper." And I was like, "What?" She goes, "I saw you on YouTube. And you're like Fred Astaire. Can you teach me that two-step?" And I was like, kind of blown away, but a big smile came across my face. And I was like, wow, if that's even a word, the mopper. But it was really funny. But, the impact, and then also here, locally, the students, that they actually come up to me now and say, "Hey, T, how you doing?" Type thing, where we never had that before, I don't think. They appreciate us because we have food, But because of this show, they really appreciate us now, the personal background. I ended up doing a little private thing as well out of my mop closet. And I got so much out of that. People coming up to me and kind of like, "Oh, we know the story now. That we know that you've been working here for many years, and this is what you do on a daily basis. And how do you do it every single day?" And it's because of shows like this that they inspire me, to keep coming to work and keep coming to work with a smile on my face. And even if I'm having a bad day, this show really did wonders for our group.
Yeah.
So.
And if I can speak a little more to the mop part of the video, is the aspect, is I'm running around with my head cut off trying to capture every single moment. He's actually gave me that one. I'm always doing an edit in my head as I'm shooting, and you'll know exactly where it is, and anybody who's probably seen the video, is it's 2 seconds long. And there's a pride that gets shown, and it's conveyed, and you could see it in everybody, but it was a long shot, and I had just dropped to my knee and just gotten in focus right before all the guys come together, and for whatever reason, it's accidental almost always. I zoomed in, and he looks at everybody, and then he just goes, and everybody moved in, and when he did that, I was like, oh, there it is. There it is.
Capture the magic.
So I would just like to add, like when we were doing it, everybody was little skits done, and we didn't get to see other people's skits. So when I actually got to see Letitia's, that was an eye-opener, because we take things for granted day after day. And I learned from her how life was for her before, I'm probably gonna get a little emotional, but before she came here. And, learning what her life was like before she came here, and how she appreciates what she has. There's days where you have to think to yourself, yep, you got a crappy day, but there's always somebody who has a crappier day. And that proved it. And, I cried when I watched her little skit. We do have feelings for each other, even though we don't want to admit it from time to time. But I was the one who actually dubbed her the nickname Tissue. So, when I call her Tissue, that's meaningful to me, because, you get to know each other, and then you don't know about people's lives until something like this happens.
Abel, can you speak to the student side of this, or had sort of the broader impact a little bit? Anything that you noticed, and then maybe we'll segue over to Jason. Since you guys are outside of dining services, what did you notice about the impact of this performance to your peers and to what you saw?
A few of my friends came to it, and they really enjoyed it. A few of them couldn't get in, so it was very popular, and there was not seating. Like, it was a kind of sold out. Beyond, I think the people who were able to watch the show, like, they really enjoyed it, and they really got that experience from it. The difficult thing is, like, how do you expand that to more people? Because we can't. There's like no place on this campus where you can fit 2,000 people. It's just not possible. So, but the question is, like, how do we just reach that out to more people is what I'm continually left with.
Jason, we've talked a bit about this, but what does shows and what does work like this mean to the Williams community, especially from your remove as alumni?
I think the first thing that it exhibits is that we are all a part of an institution, an institutional family that's willing to say that something like this is worth doing. There are plenty of other places that would say, look, this is a college or a university, it's about the students. We got a bottom line, it's gonna cost us money from a financial point of view, and what are we gonna get out of it? And that would be the end of it. And I worked in dining services for like a hot second when I was a frosh, and moved over to security, but I had fellow friends who were in dining services. And it was something, you'd see them walk around campus and they would say what's up to the people who were on dining services who they knew. But then it was like, oh, how do you know them? Oh, you guys work together? Okay. This is one of those things that definitely shattered the line between the people who are working in dining services and the students. One thing that definitely does that more is this building. Baxter used to be a sort of like, you're over there and you're on this line and we're on this side of the line. And having it in this space definitely helped the people who reside and thrive in this space to realize that they're not just the only ones who are here, and the adults who they see who are working to hook them up, to help them out, that their effort and their work is worth celebrating. And that, you know, just because you got a paper to write doesn't mean that I don't have food to cook or things to prepare for other students. And so it gets students out of the myopic idea of, well, I'm a student and food should be prepared and da-da-da-da, to this is a campus that lives and breathes together. And so when you see students then dapping up Ta or whomever is walking around and saying, well, you know, stopping off and saying, what's up, T? Just give, you know, it changes everybody's energy towards dining services, where everyone's more mindful, where everyone's thinking about what the composting and everyone's thinking about the food choices. One thing that I really wanted to thank dining services for, which I recognize now as I cook, the variance in the menu when you're a student gives you more options when you're an adult to like cook and think about, you know, and there are plenty of people who come here who don't know how to cook a thing. They destroy ramen and all they eat are peanut butter and jelly, and then when they go to the dining hall, they're getting different options of food and things like that, which forces you to be more inclusive of the fellow students who are here from international countries, the people who are from other parts of this country who have different cuisines. And so it allowed the student body to not just be students, but to understand that, you know, my dad used to say all big things come from small things. And it was an opportunity for someone who was an alum, who is an artist now, because the other thing is that as an artist, you don't even get an opportunity to celebrate the people who do the work. Artists, we end up meeting people who are behind the scenes and who are putting out speakers and who are running cable and setting everyone else up for success. And to have those people put out front, it then takes the people who are generally out front and says, look at all the things that they're doing. What are you doing to help that person out? Because they're preparing food for when you walk in, it's ready. Are you saying hi? The other thing is a lot of eye contact, a lot of people just saying hey, just recognizing these are beautiful, amazing people who are here that I used to just walk past every day. And that's good. It helps the campus to think of itself as a family and to live and breathe like an organism and say, well, how are we celebrating them if we're doing this for us? And it makes it a big cyclical thing. So when they come back for homecoming, or when they come back, I have buddies now who are thinking of sending their students here, and they've asked me questions because they know that I've been here more than they have. They're thinking of, is such and such a dining hall still open? And who